Hello and welcome along to Mondo Chalavet Movies. My name is John and this video is going to be my top 10 4K horror movies. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rank these on picture qualities and I'm going to rank them on sort of the fact that they are maybe the best ones you can get of a sort of a jump up from the Blu-ray slash DVD or what you used to see back in the day. Personally, I feel that the boutique labels take that little bit of extra time with their releases. They don't release many of the films, and I do think that they offer the collector what they want. They usually come in amazing packaging. They usually come with a chance of getting a special edition if you want one. They will come with a myriad of special features, which, to be honest, if you get a brand new film with brand new special features, you don't really watch the special features at all because they're just generic, kind of rubbish, if I'm honest. But these ones have got stuff on that you just really want to know about your the movie that you've got, and they're usually things that I do check out special features on these more than I do your sort of regular releases on mainstream films. So that being said, there's a couple of films here that I want to talk about that I haven't watched yet, but they might have been in this list, although I think would probably be outside the top 10 because the picture quality is good, but not as good as some of these ones here. Some of these ones here are absolutely stunning. Also, I want to say as well that HDR is a major player in a lot of these releases. The picture quality and obviously the colours in them are absolutely stunning on some of them, and I do think that if you were going to go and buy one of these releases or releases in general anyway in 4K, they should always have HDR. And I know some of these have been released without HDR in different countries, and there was a lot of people complaining about the fact that you get a 4K and you know the picture should be colourful, and it's not that colourful. So HDR plays a big part in these restorations, so always check for that. Okay, so that being said, the three films that I'm going to talk about that I haven't watched that I would have put in the mix for this this title of the top 4K transfer is The Evil Dead. This is the US version with a slipcover. Now, the UK version is the same as this, I believe, but it does not have a slipcover. Now, this is another thing that I'm seeing quite a lot more of with 4K films. They just put them out without slipcovers. Actually, they're charging the same amount of money, but I think in the first run you should have the chance of getting these slipcovers, because really you're paying for a premium item. So the least they can do is put a slipcover over the top of it for the initial run. So that's a bit disappointing at the moment. And there's a few films out there that I would love to get, Last Action Hero being the top one, and I don't think I'm going to go for it because, well, if I'm going to go for it, I'm going to get it very cheap, because I think that they've really, especially the cover is awful as well. So I think that that's another one that is another problem that's becoming a bit more prevalent in this time, which I think shouldn't be. So anyway, so I haven't watched The Evil Dead, but I have flicked through it and I did think it looked really nice for The Evil Dead. Also as well, this one, if you do get the American release, it's got a Blu-ray with special features on, but the special features are nowhere as good as our Blu-ray here. So I've kept this one because the special features on here are absolutely brilliant. So I've kept this one anyway. So that's just a bit of a heads up on this one. So The Evil Dead, pretty good mind, but it's lacking on special features. Also as well, which I've got but haven't watched again, but me and my wife are going to watch these quite soon. Evil Dead 2, I remember looking at it and thinking it looked pretty good for Evil Dead 2. And you do get all of the special features in here as well, so that's a really good release as well. So that sort of meant my Evil Dead 2 Blu-ray was not needed now. And also, speaking of Kino Lorber, here is Mad Max. This looks absolutely stunning, but I haven't watched it fully, so I can't grade it as I can with these other ones. And I do recommend you getting this one because it's an absolute amazing film anyway. It's shot outside and in the sun for most of the film, so it's got that look, that outdoor look, which the HDR sort of really plays a big part in it, for the fact of, you know, the picture quality is boosted, I find, with an outdoor scenery. Okay, so those are the ones I haven't watched. So at number 10, I've got Demons 2. Now, Demons 2 is always, it's not my favourite film, and these aren't put in as my favourite films. My favourite film isn't number 1, for instance, although my favourite horror movie is in this list. And so I've got Demons 2 at number 10. It's the best it's ever looked. It's got a few problems with sort of frame juddering. I think that was just down to the actual sources. It was shot, and that happened in the process of them shooting it. It's left into the film. It doesn't really detract at all, but they're in there. And it's for actually it's a spectacular release, and you can get these separate now. Demons 1 and 2, you can get them separately on 4K. So the 4K on Demons 2 is absolutely it's colourful, it's vibrant. I didn't really like the film. I haven't liked it for a long time, and it wasn't until I watched this on 4K that I sort of appreciated it for what it was. Yes, it is no demons, but it's still a decent film, and it's a much more better watch when you see it. In fact, I enjoyed it a lot more than I did on my original previous watch, and I even tried to watch it on the Blu-ray as well, and I found the Blu-ray to be the previous Arrow Blu-ray to be a little bit lackluster, to say the least. So number 10 is Demons 2 from 1986. So at number 9 from the amazing label Blue Underground is 1982's The New York Ripper. This is a Lucio Fulci masterpiece, and I do like the way that he's went and had this sort of, your generic sort of serial killer at loose in New York, but put it into a more graphic and extreme nature, as he was, renowned for. He has made this one, you could say this is the sort of zenith of the real gory crime movies. Yes, it's got its limitations, but the picture quality in here, and especially the colours, is just, the HDR that they do on this. It's got Dolby Atmos, Dolby Vision as well. So this just shows you that some of these movies are really treated to, they haven't cut any corners with it, and they made sure that this, and I'm not going to talk too much about the soundtracks in here, but this is Dolby Atmos as well. So you'd be surprised at what you can get with an old sort of what you could consider a really video nasty that you would think would never ever see the light of day in any pristine form. Well, here it is, the New York Ripper that you never thought you would ever see looking that good, and here it is looking actually spectacular. And these movies sort of they elevate a little bit in my mind, because I do like them, but I do think after watching them in the way they were meant to be seen, after, way back when, if they'd had this 4K able to be released, the master, and you saw it on its first run, you would have seen this picture quality. Obviously the ones we saw on bootleg copies, and also the ones that you used to get from like the Dutch releases, the Dutch uncut ones, were just absolutely murky compared to it. So that's number 9, New York Ripper. Number 8 is another, you'd see a lot more Blue Underground in this video. Number 8 is Lucio Fulci's The House by the Cemetery. Now I remember this movie always being dark. Now this is another good thing with HDR. When a movie's dark, sometimes you can't. I remember seeing this on a bootleg, and I couldn't see anything to do with this, especially a lot of it takes place in the cemetery. Sorry, not cemetery, in a basement. Now this movie here is, like I say, Dolby Vision, Dolby Surround, Dolby Atmos, and you think to yourself, is it going to look that good? But it's like a revelation, because the film, you see it for what it is. You see it for this sort of, it's a very artistic film, something that was lost back in the day. I didn't think this had that merit to it, but you can see that Lucio Fulci is a sort of a filmmaker, even though he's a master of gore, and he does make some really sort of questionable choices when he does feature violence, especially towards women. You can see the artistic way that he was trying to go in some of these movies as well. So yes, that's number 8, The House by the Cemetery, of 1982's Vigilante. Now this has got the lenticular slipcover, which they're starting to do all the time on the Blue Underground releases. Now if you want to get some Blue Underground releases and want to take full advantage of what they're offering here, this doesn't have a soundtrack in, because I couldn't find the elements for it, which is a shame, because the soundtrack is absolutely brilliant. You will think to yourself, I really want to get this sort of thing, but these are a little bit more expensive, I've got to admit, and you're better off getting them straight away, pre-order them, and then you won't be at the mercy of scalpers, because some of these ones can go for stupid money, and they're not worth that much. Although they are worth maybe the thought of £30, £35 price tag that you'll pay for importing them in America, and most of them are region free as well. So yes, so this one here, it's always looked good on Blu-ray. I had the Blue Underground Blu-ray of it, but these have all been remastered, like for this release, for these like 2019, 2020 releases. and they look absolutely jaw-dropping. To think that this movie could look that good, because the Blu-ray looked great, but obviously you've got the added sharpness, higher bitrate, and also the HDR, and they play a massive role in these movies. So yes, so that's Vigilante. So number 6 is Blue Underground's Daughters of Darkness. This has got an amazing slipcover, one of my favourites. This is one of the first ones that they put out in this form with a bigger box. This has got the soundtrack in. The soundtrack in here is absolutely stunning. It's one of the best soundtracks I've heard to a movie. Actually, I couldn't remember it because I think I saw this movie a long time ago. Didn't really know too much about it when I went back into it, but it was like watching a brand new movie. The presentation in here for a 1971 film, it just shows you, if you can get your hands on the original negatives, it shows you what you can do with it. And I think Blue Underground, for some reason, they have really got their act together when it comes to releasing these old movies. And I don't know what process they use, but it works every single time. Every time I've got one from them, I've always been wowed by the way that they presented their movies. That's number 6. That's Daughters of Darkness. At number 5 isn't so much a horror film, but I had to put this on the list because it looks absolutely unreal. It is 1980's The Final Countdown. Look at that slipcover on there. Look at that lenticular slipcover. Wow. Now this is probably one of the best looking Blue Underground films I've seen. It just looks unreal. The fact is that this, like I say, this movie's from 1980. I hadn't heard of it, but I'm glad I got it because it's not a horror film, don't get us wrong. It's more like a sort of science fiction war film, with the emphasis more on science fiction. But it's just, the picture quality is just unbelievable. Now it shows you that these movies, maybe some people don't know about these movies. If you're someone who loves a good looking 4K, these ones are all some of the best ones I've seen. And I know you can say that, you know, the latest blockbuster from Hollywood is going to look good, and yes, it probably is, but these are the ones that I navigate to, pardon the pun, that I think that there's more of a wow factor. If you see a movie that you're used to seeing in quite a sort of like grubby form, and you've watched it many times on a bootleg, and you think that that's about the best you can get it, to see it as it's meant to be seen in its proper scope, and you see the detail and the picture and the sharpness and the colours, it's like watching these movies for the first time. And also I think it makes the movie more enjoyable, and I do get a lot more out of these movies than I think I probably would if I was watching a regular Blu-ray. I would enjoy them, and I've watched quite a few of their Blue Underground Blu-rays and really enjoyed them, but these are just next level enjoyment for me. And I find that I can watch these movies again and again and again, because usually when I watch them on the first time, they seem to be more, the first look seems to be more me sort of grading in my mind what's good about it and what I love about it, and the second view is more like to watch the film. That's the way I sort of do it, and that's how I sort of grade my stuff, and then I put it in the list, big list of when I watch a film, I'll say, well, this deserves to be in there because it's as good as that movie, but it's not as good as this particular movie. So yes, so this, The Final Countdown, what a movie and what a picture quality that is. In fact, I'm going to leave a video to movie collectors, video that he's done of this release. It's an absolutely brilliant video, and obviously if you haven't seen it and you want to know everything about this movie and the presentation, check that video out down below. And also I'm going to leave some videos to other ones that I've done of these ones on my channel. So if you want to know more about these particular releases, you can go and check the stuff down below, and you can see more in-depth looks at these particular movies. So yes, so that's number 5, The Final Countdown. So number 4 is Dawn of the Dead. This is from Second Sight, and this is, I mean, I'm saying these are all spectacular, and they are, I've got to admit, but there's some just a little bit better than this, I feel, in my opinion. This has never looked so good. This is the special edition that came out, and it's well worth it, even though he's come out in the standard version, which it's got practically everything here apart from the extra booklets you've got in here. I'll leave more videos to what I got in this set down below. The best version in here I find is the theatrical cut for picture quality, even though they're all good looking. And that's the one that I would say, if you ever wanted to watch the one first in here to get like the ultimate picture quality of Dawn of the Dead, is the theatrical cut. I never ever thought that they would do as good a version of this movie as they've done with this, but it's absolutely unreal. And to put all this together actually is a feat in itself, because these type of releases don't happen that much, because some are lost to rights problem. Don't forget that this one was kind of more or less unavailable for about 10 years because it just vanished to be able to buy in the shops, which I do think that these type of movies should be able to just walk in and pick them up anytime you want them. We're losing too many movies to rights battles or out of print, and it just gets a bit beyond the joke actually when you just say, oh, I wouldn't mind getting Dawn of the Dead, and someone would say, oh yeah, it's great, just go online and get it for about £300. I think those days, I don't like to think of a film being sort of lost in sort of rights out of print limbo. This one was in that, and I hope it's never going to go back to that. So yes, so that's number 4, Dawn of the Dead. Coming in at number 3 is Arrow's Demons. Now, I love Demons, I've got to admit, and they have done, even though the disc was a bit faulty when it came out, but that's all been rectified for all the releases now. If you buy it in the shops, it'll all have the original, the fixed disc in it. And this looks and sounds spectacular. In fact, when I was watching it, there was loads of picture. It's always been a colourful movie, but when I watched it, I thought, hey, there's loads of things that I just was like the first time I thought I didn't know that was that colour, or I didn't know that had that sort of look to it, or this hue to it, and it's spectacular. I've got to admit, it's one of the best 4Ks that I've seen of an older film that I've always thought looked all right, not too bad, but it's never had a really good release. Even the Arrow release was a bit flawed back in the day because it didn't have a certain type of audio on that I wanted, which is on this disc. So that's why I didn't really watch the old Arrow version, even though I've got it still. I'm keeping it because I like it. But so number 3 is Demons. Like I say, it's just come out as a regular 4K. It's got a nice bit of packaging as well. It's got a nice slip cover on a slip box. So highly recommended if you like movies that are like old horror films but with a twist. And it's one of the rare times that an Italian has come up with like an original movie, which sounds a bit bad, but they're sort of well known for copying like sort of popular movies in Western cinema. But this one stands alone as being a sort of a movie of its own, but highly recommended for the movie as well. And also the picture quality is just, you know, absolutely brilliant. Arrow have done an amazing job, probably the best Arrow picture quality for me. Number 2 is Blue Underground's Zombie. Now this is my favourite horror film of all time, and I'm so glad that they did this version. And it would have been number 1, but there's one that's just taken its place. And what can you say about this film? I just think it's just absolutely brilliant from start to finish. It plays well. There's just so much gore in it. The music's brilliant in it. This is obviously Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos. It's just got everything. But the picture quality on it has got to be seen to be believed. The Arrow version that they did on Blu-ray was absolutely brilliant. I'm not going to say it's not. But if you want to see that extra push on the 4K, especially with the colours in this, just every colour in here, the blood, the sort of foliage in the sort of jungle sort of scenes, or the island scenes. There's also the water, the shark fighting in the water. It's a visual treat. Now, who would have thought back in the day, if you saw this on a dodgy bootleg, uncut, and because that's the only way you could see it, you would have thought you would be handling something like this. You would have been laughed at, because nobody in the right mind would have ever thought that anyone would put anything into these movies that I'm talking about today. But it just shows you that, thankfully, the 4K medium is starting to, at the moment, is starting to expand a bit and get movies like this into it, rather than just having the usual blockbusters, which is fair enough. If a movie looks good on 4K, it's good enough to put out there. But these are the ones that I personally think should be given a good treatment. And usually, like I say, when they come out from a boutique label, they do get that little bit of extra love, which I think if this was put out by, you know, as they are doing with a lot of films these days, it was put out by a sort of regular company, like, you know, your average company that releases, you know, lots of movies, it just wouldn't have had the love that it's been shown by this. I think it's good that a sort of boutique label, a smaller boutique label, would do these, because they seem to take that bit of extra time, because I think they're fans of these movies as well, as opposed to just people who are, I know they've got to make some money, but I think there's a lot of these big companies that think, oh, I can get some money out of that, but they would just chuck it out without a slip cover. They wouldn't do anything about the artwork in it, which is obviously, look at that artwork. So that's the thing with this. They've got to really, I think they've got to step the game up with this this 4K business on these lazy releases that they're putting out now. Some of the times they're putting out a decent release, but I think they need to take a leaf out of the boutique labels pages and sort of up the game a bit. So anyway, number 2 is Zombie. Highly recommended. So number 1, in my opinion, stands head and shoulders above all of these titles, even though all of these titles are highly recommended. If you're a fan of like under the radar, cult, old school horror films, you will love the presentations of these movies, and you will definitely have a good time with them, because they have done the best versions you probably ever see. I can't imagine any ones coming out over here that are handled by regular companies that can do anything like they've been done on these movies. So number 1 with a bullet is 1977's Suspiria. Now this is released by Synapse, who haven't released that many 4Ks actually, but what Synapse did with this, they actually, a bit like Second Sight did with Dawn of the Dead, they said we're going to do this, but we're going to take our time with it. And I think it took about a year to get it done, which is no problem because you knew they were going to do a good version of it. The same was with Suspiria. Now I know it was put out a few times, but it had no HDR, which is a big problem when it comes to Suspiria, because as everybody knows who's seen it, it is the most colourful horror film you will ever see, and it needs to have the HDR. So what they did was, Synapse, they went back to the original negatives. They didn't even go to another one and try and put HDR in it, or however you do it. They went back and done a complete grassroots, ground up remaster of this movie, and it shows, because I haven't seen any of the other 4Ks. I didn't really want to go there, and but the colours on here are absolutely unreal. I mean, as you know, there's a large amount of reds. There's 3 colours on the screen at the same time, and they will they put this on. There's no flashing, there's no nothing. There's the picture quality. The picture is pin sharp. So the audio on here is Dolby Atmos. I've got the CD of this soundtrack, which I absolutely love, by Goblin, and I've got to admit that this, when I put it on, I knew what I wanted it to look like, and it met that expectations and more. So if you're after the pinnacle, in my opinion, of the ultimate horror masterpiece / picture quality that you're going to be absolutely bowled over by, you can't beat Suspiria. Now this release isn't cheap with a slipcover. It's been out a bit, and I don't know if it's out of print yet or anything. It doesn't go, it's not cheap. And like I say, if you ever want to get these, I mean, I paid maybe probably 30 quid with it, but that was when it first came out. I'm so glad I got it when it first came out. Now, with all these movies, when they sort of get talked about, I know I want it, I'll just pre-order it straight away. Yes, it's a bit more expensive, but I know that I'm going to probably have, this is probably the last time I'll ever buy Suspiria. Now, it seems a bit funny when you say, I hope this is the last time I ever buy it, because really, I bought this film enough. I've had a lot of versions of this Suspiria, and they've been alright to a certain extent, but now I'm really glad that this is actually the last one. And I can move on, buy other stuff, but I'm so pleased that they've done the definitive version, which I think is the ultimate that you can get in here, and I don't think it can be topped, actually, if I'm honest. So yes, so that's my list. Okay, so I'm going to do some more 4K stuff. I've got a lot of 4K ideas to talk about. Had a busy week at work last week, so I was going to do, I should have been 2 or 3 videos into this sort of 4K series. But anyway, so I'm going to crack on with these, so you should see more 4K content from me in the forthcoming weeks. Got a lot to talk about. And so anyway, so thanks once again for watching. You take care, and I will see you on the next video. Cheers.